Hello, I'm an addict named Gordon. Oh man, look at the time. My time's up, Phil. My hands are almost dry, but I want to first thank Phil, the committee, for asking me to speak. I was very surprised, but very honored, needless to say. And even though I wanted to say, oh, well, I'm busy, Phil said, oh, well, we can work you in at the end of the day. So thanks, Phil. So I'm just coming back from area service, which is very, very important in terms of just being in service for my recovery. But my clean date, I'll start off with that, and I will try not to intellectualize too much, because when Phil gave me the topic of accountability through restoration, I first went to my sponsor, and my sponsor said, what the hell is that? I just said to Marcus, he said, what's my topic? I said, and he just went, but at any rate, the reason why it's kind of funny for me is that I had to look up the definition. I had to pull out my second step and second tradition, which actually I'm currently on right now, to look at it. And then I just had to say, you know what, Gordon, leave the book bag in the car. And thank God that Charles said to me, Gordon, just tell your story. So here I go. This is pretty amazing here. I was sitting in the back and I looked at this, Phil reminded me, this is what the theme is. And then a power greater than, and there's a mirror right there. So power greater than me, because you know what? I always, from a young age, fantasized about being somebody who I was not. Superheroes were great. I always fantasized about having powers of the different superheroes. I always thought of myself as better than, not realizing that I always felt less than, and I didn't recognize that at all until I came into recovery. So I grew up in a very close family, and I'm the only one alive that's an addict, and I just never knew about myself. I'm a gay man, and I always felt insecure about that, but not insecure. I kind of hid myself away in my community. So I didn't have to feel or let people get to know who I am. Today I don't really care. You can think what you want about me. That's not just. Today I'm more concerned about recovery and accepting myself as I am. When I think about accountability through restoration and the theme of the conference here, God has jokes, because my sponsor has kept me in a holding pattern on my second step and second tradition for about 3 months. I said to my sponsor, I said, when can I move on? And my sponsor said to me, well, if you ask it, every time you ask me, it's going to be a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. And even though this is the third time I'm working through steps, this is really the first time working through these steps. I kind of have the understanding of kind of sit in the step, live in the step, for a while before I move on. So, trying not to do things my way, I said, Gordon, let me just listen to my sponsor. Let me try to live this step and tradition as best I can. And I'm kind of recognizing that I'm always kind of playing that tug of war. I remember my first sponsor saying to me, I can't, he can, let him. And he told me I'll practice those first 3 steps every day of my life. And when I think about how I live my life, both before and during active addiction, and even when I tried to get clean the first time, I never really truly looked at myself and how I kind of acted out on my character defects, how I kind of felt that I knew better than anyone else. I thought I knew better than my father. I thought I knew better than my mother. I thought I knew better than all the teachers. I thought I knew better than my friends. And, I was able to rationalize and justify that my whole life. I was always able to do just enough to look good from the outside. I did very well in high school. I did very well in college. And, my addiction, I hit the ground running as an addict when I went to college. I went to Penn State, and back then it was known as the biggest party school in the country. And I was proof of that, but I still did just enough to get really good grades. I did just enough to get a really good job in banking. I did just enough to perform at that job. never interested in it, you know, still living paycheck to paycheck, even though I was, making real good money, because, once I paid the bills, everything else went towards drugs and alcohol. And I still couldn't, you still couldn't tell me that I wasn't great, until I wasn't. It took me years and years and years to put different crutches into place so that I didn't really have to look at myself and look at, once I crossed the line from being a drug abuser to a drug addict, what it had done to my life and how it destroyed my life. I hear a lot of young people being exposed to Narcotics Anonymous in their young 20s. For me, you couldn't have even told me I had a problem, even though I had a significant problem and significant bottoms from the time I entered college through the time I got clean the first time. I first got clean in 2000, and that was after trying to kill myself because I had lost everything. So all those things that I had to look good from the outside that I felt defined me all went away until it was just me, and I didn't want to live. I didn't know what to do at that point, So, out of that desperation came my introduction to Narcotics Anonymous through the institutions that I was in at that time. What I didn't do during that time, and I talk about doing just enough, I wound up getting back all those material things. I worked through steps in another fellowship at the time. But one thing I never did was work on myself. I never really did any work. I went through the steps like it was a college course, So I did it very academically, very sterile. And I'll never forget when I did my very first fifth step. After the person I did it with said to me, and it always stuck with me, he says, I see an aloofness to this. There was a disconnect between me and what I wrote, and the reason why that stuck with me for a long time is because I recognized when I got clean the second time, and my clean date is April 15th of 2017. I relapsed in 2007 after having a few years clean, and then it took another 10 years for me to get back into the rooms. But what I recognized this time is that I never worked on myself. It was very, very superficial. This time around, I didn't lose those material things, but I remember being awake for like 5 days, smoking crack, and I had this kind of semi-lucid dream, and in this dream, I kind of looked in the mirror, and all I saw was a skeleton. And that was kind of a spiritual awakening for me, because while I did not use those material things, I had really lost myself, and there was just this deep hole in me, and that's kind of when I first realized that, I can't do what I had been doing, all those things that I had put in place so that I didn't have to face the fact that I'm an addict and I need some help. I need some restoration from the insanity that I had been living, So that kind of started my journey, and it really was heartfelt. And I remember as soon as I got out of rehab, because I had to go into an inpatient rehab, as soon as I got out there, like go to 90 meetings, 90 days, get a sponsor. And the day I got out, I went and got a haircut. I was telling my barber, I'm just coming out. And he said, my cousin's in the fellowship. And ironically, when I left the barbershop, he was right there. And that man was my first sponsor. And I learned a lot about recovery from him. But one of the things he also said to me in the very beginning, when we were working through steps, is like, when I got clean the first time, did I work a thorough second step? I was kind of puzzled and paused. And then he just said, that's why you relapse. And it made sense to me, because the second step, coming to believe that something more powerful than Gordan can restore me to sanity, because I had been trying to fix, manage, and control everything in my life, thinking I know better. And when I now looked at the damage and destruction I had done, because for those 10 years I held my family complete hostage, and the harm that I did to my family and everyone around me, I'm amazed today that I've been able to earn the respect and look back of my family, which is extremely important to me. And that's only through this program, because I had to do some work here. I realized I got to do some real work here, not that superficial bullshit that I have been doing in the past. I really got to work on myself. I really got to kind of peel back the layers to really see who I am. And it's not comfortable, you know. And they told me, like I thought in the past, it's not one and done, you know. I got to keep coming back, as y'all told me. And I used to get annoyed with all the cliches, but it seems like the longer I stay in recovery and the longer I do the work, the more I recognize that those cliches are exactly what I need, because I get up in my head too much and want to overanalyze everything too much and overthink everything. And anyone that knows me will tell you that. But when I kind of think of those simple cliches, they make more and more sense to me, and they ground me today. You know, keep coming back, you know, slowly over a period of time. All of those things, feel like I'm married to all of them right now, because it kind of helps me grow and change, because I can't do this by myself. And I believe in God, but today I recognize I believe that I don't really have the ability. My mind is too small to really understand God completely. And today I'm okay with that, because see, I always used to think that I had to understand what the so-called higher power was. Today, I'm okay with that. Through Narcotics Anonymous, I learned that, hey, I'm going to continue to develop a relationship with my higher power. I don't have to define my higher power, which is what the literature and the stuff work tells me, because I'm going to continue to develop that. The literature tells me that if I have a fixed idea as to what my higher power is, I can't grow and I can't continue to develop that relationship with that higher power. And that higher power today, for me today, is the only way that not only I'm going to stay clean, because it's not, for me today, it's not about staying clean. For me today, it's about managing to the best of my ability the insanity of addiction, period. Through this step work and through doing service work and through prayer, meditation, and working with my sponsor, listening to other people's experience and how they apply the steps and traditions and principles in their lives, are slowly helping me restore myself to insanity. So when we talk about this topic of accountability through restoration, that restoration for me has come through all those basics that I'm told that I need to do, which today I embrace. And when I do some writing and do some surrendering and do some acceptance and, you know, find out my patterns and find out my defects and how I act out on them and what the opposite spiritual principle is in order to overcome that and be able to practice this new way of life and become the person that I want to be and just be a little bit better today than I was yesterday, then I become slowly restored to sanity. And then I also recognize that I'm still insane, and today I can at least laugh at it. You know, I can laugh at it, and then I can also laugh when other people laugh at it. And trust me, you come to any family function, they will remind you of all my crazy stories every time. You know, but today I can laugh at it and embrace it, because you know what, though, I'm not there today. It's okay to laugh at myself today. I don't have to take myself so seriously, because I know I'm on this path of recovery, and I like to keep coming back. I like to go to meetings. You know, I like to be of service. You know, I like to at least recognize when I'm acting out, because see, then I got a growth opportunity. I don't have to look at it and use the hammer, because, you know, I'm real good for using that hammer, you know, but y'all told me put the hammer down, pick the feather up. Don't take myself too seriously. You know, and all of that work that I do in recovery and continue to do in recovery is how I'm becoming restored. And then that leads to accountability, because see, I have to be accountable for my recovery. I've got to be accountable for my relationships to my family, to my job, to society, to Narcotics Anonymous, to my higher power, you know, and understand that if I kind of stay in a position of humility, then I can allow that higher power to work in my life. But for me, it's kind of like tug of war. And that's where that keep coming back, and slowly over a period of time, because I still want to take my will back. I still think that I know better, and I got to take a step back and say, you know what, Gordan, no, you don't. Look at all the evidence and recognize, no, I don't. But then let me look at all the evidence, both in active addiction and in recovery, where that higher power, man. When I said to someone just before, I said, you know what, I think I said to Phil and maybe a couple other people, literally my sponsor has been kept me on my second step in second tradition, which I finished writing on about 6 months ago. And then I kind of wrote on my third step and third tradition. And then I said to my sponsor, I said, look, before I start writing on my fourth step, what do you want me to know? And my sponsor said, I don't want you to write anything. As a matter of fact, I want you to kind of put the brakes on this. I hadn't spoken to my sponsor in a few months, so I wasn't doing anything. And I kind of looked at my journal and realized it had been like a year and a half since I did any writing. But then I started, like everything, I want to go gung-ho in the beginning. And then I kind of stopped. So now, being in the second step, having Phil ask me to speak and then reminded me 22, second tradition, second step, power greater than, it's just kind of all ironic. That to me is an example of a power greater than Gordan is helping restore me to sanity. Because see, that's not a coincidence. That ain't a coincidence at all. So again, Phil, thank you for asking me to speak. And just as someone else said earlier, I hope you guys got a message from this. But see, I know I got exactly what I needed because I got some things that I need to be accountable for in my life right now that I know through continuing this process of recovery and listening and taking and continuing to do all the basic steps that I'm told that I need to do. And I'm okay with that today. Things will get better. I'm an addict named Gordan. Thanks for letting me share.